The Lonely Lake Monster, Chapter 4, A Boy Named Ben. The old button factory stood at the edge of town. The 10-story concrete building loomed behind a wrought iron fence. Last week, Pearl had watched a giant bird fly toward the factory, a bird that bore an amazing resemblance to a dragon. But at that moment, the only thing flying overhead was a lone pigeon. A long gravel driveway led from the entry gate to the factory's front door. The gate was secured with a chain and padlock. It had been that way ever since the factory had closed down. Pearl, in her constant search for something to do, had climbed over the fence many times. She'd searched the overgrown grass for stray buttons. Buttons could be found all over Buttonville, thanks to the birds that had snatched them from the factory year after year to decorate their nests. The prettiest one Pearl had discovered was shaped like a heart and made for mother of pearl. The strangest one looked like a glass eyeball. But Pearl's trespassing had been outdoors only. Even though there were plenty of broken windows to crawl through, she'd never gone inside the vacant building. It was dark in there, and the wind made an eerie sound as it snaked through cracks in the glass. After a while, she'd lost interest in the old factory, but then she'd met a boy named Ben, and that was when everything changed. Ben Silverstein, age 10, had arrived in Buttonville just 4 days ago. He'd come all the way from Los Angeles, California, to stay with his grandfather, Abe Silverstein. The reason Pearl and Ben had first visited Dr. Wu's hospital was because Ben had found a dragon hatchling on his bed. His grandfather's black cat, Barnaby, had captured the little creature. The hatchling's wing was torn, and green blood oozed from its cat bite wound. Pearl and Ben had taken it to the hospital for care, and that was when the whole Sasquatch adventure began. Ben had earned a Sasquatch catching certificate and was going to be an apprentice too. He seemed nice enough, but other kids had seemed nice and then turned out to be mean. Pearl needed more time before she truly knew if Ben was her friend. Pearl and her mother crossed the street and headed for the factory gate. Ben and his grandfather were already there. "Hi, Pearl," Ben said. He stuck his hands into his pants pockets. They were the kind of jeans that came with a fancy label, and his sneakers were brand new, without a smudge or a stain. A famous basketball player's name was stamped on the backs. Shoes like that didn't come from the dollar store. "My mom wants to meet Dr. Wu," Pearl whispered to Ben. "My grandfather wants to meet her too," Ben whispered back. Grandpa Abe leaned on his wooden cane, the summer sun reflecting off his bald head. "So what do you think about this?" He pointed to the sign that hung from the gate. "Welcome to Dr. Wu's Worm Hospital. Dr. Wu does not treat cats, dogs, pigs, rats, snakes, turtles, fish, frogs, or any other creature that is not a worm. Dr. Wu sees worms by appointment only. If you don't have an appointment, keep out." "I think it's very odd," Mrs. Petal said after reading the sign. "I don't know anyone who has a pet worm. Why would Buttonville need a worm hospital?" "Buttonville needs a worm hospital as much as I need a hole in my head," Grandpa Abe said with a chuckle. "But Ben is very excited. Who knew? My grandson, the worm apprentice." "I could barely sleep," Pearl told Ben. "What do you think we'll do on our first day?" "I don't know, but I brought some bandages just in case." He patted his back pocket. Then he held out his shiny wristwatch. "It's almost time. Only 1 more minute." They wrapped their fingers around the bars and stared through the gate. Even though they were the same age, Pearl stood a head taller than Ben, and while her long hair was the color of wheat, Ben's was dark and cropped super short. My heart is bouncing around like a Mexican jumping bean, she said. Mine too. He gripped the bars tighter. I keep thinking about that form we signed, the one that said we could get stomped or crushed. Shh, Pearl warned. If my mom hears about that form, I'll never get to be an apprentice. During Ben's and Pearl's first visit to the hospital, they'd each signed a form agreeing that they wouldn't blame Dr. Wu if they got hurt. There'd been a long list of ways this could happen: biting, stomping, crushing, and shredding, to name a few. But Pearl wasn't worried. She knew how to take care of herself. Ben, however, didn't look so confident. His forehead glistened with sweat, and he chewed on his lower lip. He looked like he might turn and run. Don't be scared, she told him. She pulled 2 pieces of gum from her pocket, shoved one into her mouth, and offered the other to Ben. He popped it into his mouth. We'll be okay. I'm not scared, he said, standing as tall as he could. I just think we should be careful. He checked his watch again. It's 8 o'clock. Pearl looked over her shoulder. Mrs. Mulberry's car was nowhere to be seen. Hopefully it would take Victoria a very long time to change into her pink dress. Long enough for Pearl and Ben to get safely inside the hospital without Mrs. Mulberry bothering Dr. Wu. Look! Ben nudged Pearl with his elbow. Her gaze rolled down the long driveway and rested on the front door, which was slowly opening. A woman stepped out. Dr. Wu, Pearl whispered.